Hey guys, it's January 2nd, so 2025. So we're into the new year, and hope everybody had a good new year. But I wanted to talk to you about January 2nd and what it means to me. And this is not a fitness post. This is a life post. So in 1954, my mom was born on January 2nd. And then in 2021, on January 2nd, my mother passed away. She passed away on her 67th birthday, which I think is kind of cool. You pass away on your birthday or on July 4th or some date like that. I've always thought those things are kind of cool. Not that dying's cool, but you know. Anyways, last month I talked about my dad passing away and my goal to be a better man in my 45th year because it was his last year of life. What I didn't talk about is before he passed away, it was me, him, my mom, and my brother, and it was us for a lot of the times because we traveled, being a military family, and then being my dad was in a business where we moved on a regular occasion, so it was us for a lot. And even though that was the case, we had I would say as close to a 1980s Leave It to Beaver kind of life that you can have. You know, we always had a nice home, we always had food on the table, very loving family, very affectionate family. And then, like we talked about in the past, my father passed away in January of 1993. 6 months later, right after we moved to Springfield from Long Beach, California, my brother and I, he was 10, I was 13, we were riding bikes. And if you're familiar with Springfield, we were at Battlefield and Jefferson when he got hit by a diesel truck, and he bled out. I watched him bleed out, and he passed away. And soon after that, my mom got involved in drugs. And I'm not talking about a little bit of partying on the weekends. I'm talking about locking yourself in the bathroom for days at a time. And so naturally, CPS got involved. I got put into foster care. And I was in foster care for the better part of my 8th grade year that summer, going into my 9th grade year. And then my mom didn't necessarily clean up, but she cleaned up enough to be able to get me back home. And so when I came home, and all through my high school years, she continued to be in the bathroom a lot, doing drugs, and her show of affection was to slip me a 20 or a 50 underneath the door whenever I needed something from her. So, anyways, there was a lot of resentment, a lot of hatred, a lot of feeling like, hey, you know, I know you lost your husband at 38 and your younger son at 38, but what about me? And I'll never forget that I had that resentment and that hatred and that anger and frustration and sadness for years and years. And then on March 3rd, several years later, my first son was born. And when he was born, I remember my mom came and picked me up from the hospital to take me home to get a shower and get cleaned up, get some clothes. And we sat in the Cox South parking lot, and I looked at her and I said, Mom, I said, I want you to know that my son is only 3 or 4 hours old at this point, and I cannot imagine what it would be like to lose him. And so that you had 10 years with a little boy that was your son, and then all of a sudden he was gone. I can't imagine the pain you went through. I can't imagine the confusion, the loss, the anger, the loss of sanity, quite frankly. And so I want you to know that I forgive you. I forgive you for everything that happened, because I don't know that I wouldn't have done the same thing in that situation, simply because the thought of losing a child is so horrific that I don't think unless we've lost an actual child we can even comprehend. So at that point, I forgave her. And for the next several, well, not several, but next couple decades, we had our ups and downs, we had our highs and lows, but we always we always had a close relationship. And through those years, it took me a constant reminder that I did forgive her, and so that I needed to continue to forgive her, because I don't believe forgiveness is a one-time thing. I think that you have to relive that forgiveness on a regular basis, because the old feelings that brought you the need to forgive will pop up again and again and again. So the day after Christmas in 2020, After she had been in and out of the hospital for a couple years, she passed. She had COPD. She went into the hospital December 26th, and the doctors basically said, "Look, her body's just shutting down." And we brought her home on hospice. She had lived with us for a couple years prior to that, just because I wanted her to feel comfortable and safe in a clean and good environment for her sunset years, and to be able to spend time with me, to be able to spend time with her grandchildren, that kind of thing. She came home, and for the next 2 or 3 days, she came home on the 28th or 29th. For the next 2 or 3 days, she was surrounded by family. She was surrounded by love. She knew what was going on. She knew that it was her time. And during that time, when I would have my time alone with her, we would sit, we would hold hands, I would lay with her in bed. We would just listen to Eric Clapton, in particular, Wonderful Tonight and Tears in Heaven. Eric Clapton was her favorite musician and her lifelong crush. We talked about old times. She told me stories I had not heard before about my dad, about her life, all of that stuff. And I remember on the night of January 1st, well, on the day of January 1st, she started to go into that final sleep where, she is morphined up, and it's that time. We got a few hours left. She she had been out for several hours, and no communication with her, just laying there, sleeping. And I had to go to Walmart for something. And I told her, I said, "Hey, Mom," I said, "I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm going to run to Walmart. I'll be right back. And I'm going to lay back down next to you." And she sat up, and she gave me a hug, and she said, "Nick, I love you so much." And those were the last words that she ever spoke, and I was the last person that she ever talked to. The next day, she ended up passing away. We stopped the oxygen, and we said our goodbyes. And I learned after a lot of reflection that forgiveness is not just for the person we're forgiving, but it's for the person that's doing the forgiving. Had I not forgiven her, and had I held that resentment, I would have not had that experience that I had with my mom in the last few days of her life, and I would have probably regretted it forever. I would have not got to hear the memories. I would have not got to reminisce on the good times that we had. I would have not got to say a true goodbye. And so, while that was a planned passing in the sense of we knew what was coming, I think that it is incumbent upon us, not just for the person we're forgiving, but for ourselves, to forgive for the wrongdoings, because the fact of the matter is that there's as much in it for us as there is for the person we're forgiving. It's healing, and it is meaningful, and it's one of the best things we can do for our spiritual growth, our emotional growth, our psychological growth, in the sense of letting things go and just letting life be what it is, and being okay with it. And so those are my thoughts for today. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you and I miss you.